Okay, I bought something cool.
I like cool. It's better than not cool.
Back in the days when Blue Sky still worked, I telegraphed this there. I've decided...
Has it been down all day?
They've had problems the last couple of days.
This has not been going. Anyway.
Look, one of the side effects of the vibe coding era of web properties and platforms seems to be that uptime is no longer considered as important as it once was.
It's optional. Uptime is now a nice to have.
Yeah. It's like on the Maslow's hierarchy of internet needs, it's like a number 4 behind sick beats and like funny emojis, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I told people the couple of nights ago that I was going to get, I think I might be a mechanical pencil guy.
Oh,
so
wait, hang on. You weren't before?
Well, like I, for a long time have used these, like they're Papermate, little sharp writers, the little yellow ones. They're kind of disposable.
Yeah. With the twisty tip.
Yeah. The twisty tip. There's the problem with them is there's only one piece of lead in there. Right. So it's a pretty wasteful design. It makes a lot of plastic, which I don't like.
Oh, so they're literally just one and done. Like use up the graphite and then just toss it.
Use it and toss
stinks.
it. It's a very boomer solution to hey, I need a mechanical pencil that doesn't cost $10 problem.
Myself and at least one of my friends, if not all of us, were big Pentel quicker clicker guys in school.
Is that the silver one with the black trim?
They come in different colors, but they were mostly. Oh, I'm looking. Oh, the modern version looks pretty different. Back then, it was a clear plastic body.
The
very fine tip.
Those.
The button,
and you pinch the side.
The button was like around where you would hold it with your fingers to write. But you would just kind of hold it around the button and not put your finger on the button. But it was extremely replaceable, or basically the inside of the body of the pencil could hold like a whole bunch of extra graphites, and one would just kind of feed down into the hole when the previous one was short enough. And you could just fill it up with graphite and go like most of the school year.
So when I was in high school, I was all about that Zebra mechanical pencil life. The one with it was like a drafting pencil. So it had a long, fine point. And anyway, the thing I found though, look, sometimes you got to trust Japan, because when it comes to stationery, Japan, strong game.
I bet there are some amazing Japanese mechanical pencils.
Yeah, so I found a YouTube channel. It's going to cost me some money, I think, probably.
Oh.
But I got the first one in the other day, and I've been using it for about a week now, and it's a remarkable mechanical pencil. This is a Kitabashi 2mm mechanical pencil. So most mechanical pencils are like 0.5 mils. There's very, very fine lead.
Okay.
This is the thickness of a normal wooden pencil lead.
Interesting.
It comes with a lead sharpener that you just jam the lead down into to put a good point on it. And the frame of it is made of wood. So it feels like a normal pencil.
Wild.
It just doesn't get ground down. And it was like $9.
Huh. All right.
I am enjoying it so much because it's like, you get the fine point for drawing, you get the shading on the side, all that stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Domestic reseller. I assume you didn't have to order it from Japan.
I bought it at a stationery shop down down the peninsula a little bit, but they have them on Amazon. I looked before I started talking about it. So it's the Kitabashi 2mm mechanical pencil matter barrel is the version I got, the red one.
I assume they have like finer tip ones as well.
They do traditional. So I think this is the per the YouTube video I watched, I believe that this is a traditional wooden pencil company that got in the mechanical pencil game because they viewed that as there's not that many people making pencils anymore. And they were like, we should cover all the bases. We should cover all the pencil bases. We should do mechanical and traditional pencils.
Is that a thing? Much like there are only 3 companies making hard drives now, or there are actually not that many pencil manufacturers?
I want to say that at one point there were like 30 or 40 Japanese pencil manufacturers, and now there's 3. Man. So yeah, similar situation. I mean, look, you're always going to get a Ticonderoga, right? It's not like the CRT world where one day the last Ticonderoga will roll off the line. But I mean, maybe it is. But the kids still use pencils. That's all I know.
Yeah, I believe it.
Even in a world without Scantron, they still need a number two pencil.
Wait,
occasionally.
They don't Scantron anymore?
No, they just use computers, man.
Oh,
it's the future,
man. This might be the one time I've ever been disappointed by the phrase, no, they just use computers now.
I'm going to go and tell you, the kids hate taking tests on computers.
Really?
At least my daughter and her friends all hate it because, like, you think about it, you're like doing a math part of a standardized test, and you have to have a scratch sheet next to you because you're doing your figuring on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like it's just you're just bouncing back and forth between keyboard and paper and keyboard and paper and keyboard and paper, and it sucks. Yeah.
God, I can't believe I'm nostalgic for filling in little bubbles.
I mean, I have a printer. I can give you bubbles to fill.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be the same, but it'll give you the bubble filling needs.
Okay, we might have to talk later. All right, last thing, you want to name and shame the YouTube channel? It's not name and shame. Right? Do you want to name and fame the YouTube channel?
I don't remember. It was a short, so it was disposable.
Okay.
This is
as we all know, shorts don't exist on servers. They just evaporate into the ether after viewing.
Look, I can go into my history and I can probably find it, but it's going to be back in time a little bit.
All right. Well,
so,
probably the fewer shorts viewed, the better.
Yeah. I like the shorts.
We watched an eye-opening video on, do you know Howtown?
Yeah.
You know Joss Fong?
Yeah.
I don't know her, but I don't
know them personally.
I know of her, and I don't know if her co-founders of that channel also, she was at The Verge before, I think.
That seems right.
Like they
maybe
have, she and a couple of other people have their own channel now doing the same types of deep dive science-y videos that I think they were doing for The Verge or whoever it was. They did a pretty long one about the effect on the brain of too much short-form video scrolling.
It's probably good, right?
It was alarming.
Oh, no.
There have been some studies.
Oh, no. I watched a lot of short-form videos.
Oh, look, it's your brain, man.
Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
I found the video.
Great. That was quick.
Yeah, I found it. It's at the Bungu store. BUNGU store. I think they sell mechanical pencils.
That would make sense.
Yeah. I like a YouTube short where they sell the thing. Like I like watching people make candy. That's interesting.
Oh, I Googled the name of the pencil you mentioned, and that was in fact the store I had already ended up on to buy the pencil. So
yeah.
They've really cornered the market on this particular model of pencil.
Now, the problem is I don't know where I'm going to get the 2 mil lead. I guess this is probably where they get you. They sell you the pencil for cheap, and then the leads are going to be like $35 each or something ridiculous. But
here is a $44 all metal mechanical pencil that looks like a dentist's implement.
Nope.
That's
got to get enough of that at the dentist.
It's kind of scary looking. What is that? God, not only do I not know the name for this type of metal surfacing, I don't even know the name for the
knurling.
Knurling, I think knurling is in fact it. It's like the
knurling. It's like a crosshatch pattern kind of thing.
Yeah, like a textured.
Yeah, it makes it grippier,
geometrically textured. Yeah, it's got a big fat knurl to grip on it.
Yeah, when you do that on a lathe, there's a special bit that you put on the lathe that goes around the edge of whatever you're cutting into that it digs that pattern into the metal.
And this one has multiple. It has optional tips. This does it up to 0.3 millimeter tip.
That's 0.3 is not big enough. I need 2.
This is a scary pencil.
Yeah, I have a couple more coming. I've maybe made a mistake, but I'll report back in later. I did also, that pencil doesn't have an eraser on it, which was the first thing my wife pointed out when I was like, hey, check out this cool pencil I bought. She's like, where's the eraser? I was like, well, I mean, if you make mistakes, I guess that's a problem. But I got a pack of mono Japanese plastic erasers at the stationery store to go with it, because the guy was like, hey, this doesn't have an eraser.
Okay, last pencil thing, we should move on. But I went in their store, went to the pencil section, and sorted price high to low. What do you think?
$50.
$245 is the most expensive mechanical pencil they have.
What is it used for?
I don't know. It just looks nice. Revolutionize your writing experience with the Kuru Toga Dive mechanical pencil.
So I have one coming that, like, just the movement of your hand pushes the lead out.
Okay.
Just like you shake your hand a little bit and it pushes it out. And Brad's making a big face now.
Okay, wait, hang on. I was so blown away by what I was reading that I'm not sure. Could you repeat?
So I have another pencil coming that you shake your hand to move. The movement of your hand extends the lead naturally.
I heard enough of what you said to hear that it had a novel lead dispensing mechanism, but you still have to interact with it to dispense the lead, is what you're saying.
I think the idea is that the act of using it, like moving it with your hand to write, extends the lead automatically.
Okay, well, this $245 pencil eliminates the need to knock the pencil while writing.
Ooh.
Utilizing the force of the lead pressing against the paper, the world's first mechanism advances the lead automatically without dragging the pen tip.
Wow, that's wild.
Automatic lead advancement.
So it's like a self-winding watch.
Yes, like the lead comes out as you write with the lead.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Anyway, all right.
Speaking of things that, never stop working. I don't know. It's a bad segue. There was this blog post from Microsoft a couple of weeks ago, and it happened while you were out sick, so we didn't talk about it here.
Yes. It's time to fix Windows 11.
Yeah. Our commitment to Windows quality.
We're here to fix Windows 11 this week.
We're going to make Windows work good again.
No, we're not.
No.
Yeah, I think when did we bring this up? I think I maybe mentioned it very briefly. I think it posted right before my surgery, and I think I just maybe barely mentioned the existence of this blog post on that last Q&A episode before I was out.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly, but there's a lot here. It's worth digging into.
Yeah. And I think we're going to get into some ideas of our own for improving Windows 11, but also I think like the fact that this blog post even exists is pretty telling.
Yeah,
and is really like a signifier of maybe deeper and broader problems at Microsoft.
Well, Microsoft's been in the business of shoveling AI down everybody's throats for the last few years, and maybe they did the Copilot Plus PCs, which didn't really move the needle on PC sales at all in the way that I think everybody involved was hoping they would.
Yeah.
And this feels like one of the great mea culpa blog posts. Do you remember when PUBG was still relatively new and they had they posted a blog post because they were having cheating problems and like game balance problems, and they initiated the #FixPUBG campaign.
Wait, that was theirs?
Yeah, that was theirs.
Oh, I thought that was people who liked the game and were mad about it.
No, the people who liked the game and were mad about it made fun of it for years.
Wow.
Because the #FixPUBG campaign didn't really #FixPUBG.
I don't know if as the product maker getting out there and publicizing the notion that your product needs fixing is the best. I don't know. Maybe.
I think if you have obvious problems that everybody who plays something or engages with it is aware of as a problem, then acknowledging that there's a problem makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
But only if you have a concrete plan that you're pretty confident you can execute on to actually solve those problems.
Yes.
And that's why we're talking about this blog post today, because I don't think they have a concrete plan to solve most of these problems.
Yeah, some of these are pretty directly actionable. Others feel pretty hand-wavy and overly broad.
Well, so this is from Pavan Davaluri, who is the Windows Insider program team lead, I think, which means he's basically, he's the EVP of Windows and devices. So that means he's in charge of Windows and Surface and all the Windows devices that aren't Xbox, presumably.
Okay.
And it's written to Windows Insiders, which is, for folks who don't know, the Windows Insider program is like their public beta testing program. So if you are a Windows enthusiast or you don't want to pay for Windows, you can sign up to be a Windows Insider, and they will treat your Windows as if you paid for it, and give you early. They dump early versions of the OS out to people in different versions of the Insider ring. There's 2 or 3 rings. There's one that's like you just get the new stuff as soon as it hits. There's one that's like you're getting some beta software, and there's one that you're on the bleeding edge. Here is the lead paragraph for this. Hello, Windows Insiders. I want to speak to you directly as an engineer who has spent his career building technology that people depend on every day. Windows touches more people's lives than almost any technology on Earth. Every day we hear from the community about how you experience Windows. And over the past several months, the team and I have spent a great deal of time analyzing your feedback. What came through was the voice of people who care deeply about Windows and want it to be better. I think that's
That is a masterclass in massaging the reality.
Yeah.
To sound friendlier and more beneficial to the company. What came through was the voice of people who care deeply about Windows and want it to be better.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say that's consistent with a lot of the sentiment I see out there about Windows these days, but I mean, in a certain sense, he's not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to beta test Windows software for Microsoft, you clearly care about the OS.
Okay, yes,
you clearly want it to be better.
I think I'm maybe being a little overly broad here about who he's talking about. Like if you're talking strictly about Windows Insider members or people on the inside rings or whatever, then yes, those people probably do care deeply about Windows.
But I also, like, you remember, this is also 6 months after they said, hey, man, if you are on a Windows 10 machine that doesn't support these things that are less than 10 years old, you can't use the new OS. And also we're turning off support for the old OS. Right.
Yep.
So, I think they fucked around and now they're in the finding out phase of like that transition.
Yeah. I mean, this is amid, like Linux hitting all time highs on the share of the Steam user survey.
Yeah.
And
there's an asterisk there because they did change the way they report some of those numbers, but I don't understand I haven't dug in enough to look at the nuance of how that works. But anyway, yeah. So like, this is a big mea culpa from Microsoft. And basically he starts this blog post with some stuff that they say they're going to roll out at the end of March release and throughout April.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think a couple of these things have already happened in the 3 weeks since this post ran, but then there's a much broader plan for the rest of the year. And we'll step through that after we quickly dispense with the current stuff.
Well, and it's worth mentioning, he's talking about in the insider builds for these.
Yeah.
So if you're on a mainline build, you probably won't see this until much later. And even if you are in the insider build, if you have a piece of hardware that they've determined is incompatible, because this is part of the challenge with the insider rings, right? Is they look at the hardware in your system. If they know that there's something that's going to cause an issue, they don't give you an update, and you'll get it later when they resolve whatever the issue is, or when your driver's updated or whatever the problem is.
Yeah, which frankly, I appreciate that, because there have been a couple cases in the past where like the annual update, I looked at the changelog or the known issues list rather, and saw something that absolutely would have bitten me for whatever, like esoteric network share setup I've got or something.
Well, the way they stagger rollouts now is really smart and actually quite effective usually. So you don't end up in situations where your like weird network card is going to cause you a problem or something like that.
Right. I mean, that said, that didn't stop that Mellanox card from abruptly ceasing to function in my system.
Well,
a couple months ago, but whatever.
Look, it's omelets, eggs, Brad.
It is a complicated problem space.
And you're on a like the lower percentage of the hardware in your machine.
Yeah,
the more problems you're going to have.
That's a 14-year-old card, I believe, made for data centers 14 years ago.
Yeah, and probably there's like 18 people that have those in desktop Windows PCs.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go down. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the things they have in this list. We're going to talk about the things he talks about to come. The first list is stuff that's going to happen in Insider Build soon, like this April, basically.
Yeah, this month. And the first one on the list, I mean,
yeah.
Like if you had any doubt up to this point that this was in fact a mea culpa, that this is addressing very pointed user criticism, the fact that they're leading with, hey, you can put the taskbar on the sides or top again.
Hey man, ultra wide monitors are a thing, and having your taskbar across the bottom of a 3600 by 1440 display is real stupid.
Yeah. Also, it's like the most egregious example of a thing they took away in the course of transitioning to Windows 11, which, I mean, it's I guess probably not a very short list. I'd say there's quite a few UI things that they changed for the worse, but this one has to be by far the most complained about. Like this is the most low-hanging fruit I can think of among things people don't like about Windows 11, that they're just like, hey, you know what? We're just going to let you do that again.
And like centering the taskbar, that's fine. Whatever. They let you turn that off. Like I usually use defaults, but having the left side taskbar is really convenient, it turns out.
Yeah. Some people, I'm not a huge fan of side taskbar, but some people swear by it.
I was always a side taskbar person until Windows 11. Yeah,
really?
100%.
No kidding.
Well, because I had big monitors, and like I'd rather use less space for that.
Actually, you're not wrong, especially in the days of, or in the modern era of the taskbar just being icons. I guess I'm forever sort of poisoned by original taskbar, where you had the very, very wide tiles that had like most of the window title in them.
Yeah, when did the icon only started with Windows 7, right?
Vista, right? Didn't Vista?
I don't remember. I'd have to look. But basically, Windows 10 was when I started getting high resolution. It's when I had an Ultraroid monitor the first time, and I switched over, and I never looked back until they were like, "No, you can't do this anymore."
Oh, I think you're right. I'm looking at a Vista screenshot that still has the super wide textual.
I think it's when they made the start button not say start anymore. Yeah. Let's see. They're going to integrate AI where it's most meaningful with craft and focus. Now that is a well thought out line right there. Craft. I don't know how you craft AI, but they're saying, hey, we're going to reduce unnecessary Copilot entry points, starting with things like snipping tool, photos, widgets, and Notepad. They've done some of this already.
Yeah, this just happened in the last week, I believe. Notepad, I know, is on the list.
It's still in there. It's just called something else now, which is maybe the most Microsoft way to solve a problem I've ever heard.
You're right. The first comment on this Reddit thread, the title is misleading. They did not remove it. They renamed it.
Yeah. So it doesn't say Copilot anymore, but it does Copilot-ish things. Nice job, Microsoft.
Well, I guess that's the craft and focus. They decided what it should be called now.
I'm focusing my something on something else. Reducing disruption of Windows updates. This is a good one. Right now, you can only delay Windows updates 2 weeks, I think, if you're on a consumer level OS. This lets you say, hey, I don't want to get updates. I can skip them indefinitely. I can skip them during device setup.
You can effectively like pause updates until you unpause them yourself, right?
Yeah, and the machine won't restart or shut down for an update without you knowing that it's going to happen, without you saying, yeah, I want to do this.
Yeah, I think this is probably a net good. Like,
this is a good one.
I do think a lot of people are way too lackadaisical toward the updating and security of their devices, but also like you have to prioritize user freedom in every case, right? Like you have to. God, there I go using the word freedom.
Well, but
I'm going to be all free as in speech, not as in beer soon here. But
oh no,
but I mean, like you should allow people. I guess you should give people enough rope to hang themselves with, right? Like you should. If they want to assume the risks of not updating their OS for 6 months, then go with God.
Well, so there's a ton of use cases where you don't want to update the OS. Like we have one at PC World all the time when we're testing CPUs or GPUs.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We don't want to update the OS during that time period,
temporarily,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the indefinite turning off updates where I think some people are just going to forget to ever turn them back on.
For me, the turning off updates and not getting more updates is like that's a edge case. I'm sure they're going to put some warning language around that. It's like, hey, this is a bad idea. You shouldn't do this.
Or maybe they pop a notification after 3 months. It's like, hey, you haven't updated in a while. It's important for security.
For me, it's, hey, I'm giving a presentation and all of a sudden my computer turns off because in the background, the notification that said, hey, we're going to restart your computer in 5 minutes didn't pop up because the presentation has notifications.
Yeah, 100%. But again, that's
suppressed.
But that falls under the temporary pausing as opposed to the just indefinite, like, hey, turn it off and leave it off.
Well, but there's
which
also,
I think is what's new.
Another part of this is also the, hey, we're not going to turn off your computer for an update without you clicking a button.
Yeah, that obviously is good. Or, I mean, that is essential. That shouldn't even be a good to have. That should just be the way it is.
Yeah, that should be. Here's another good one. Faster and more dependable file explorer.
Yeah, well, so some of these will come back up with more detail in the kind of annual plan going forward that they delineate here. I don't know how much they're going to be able to do to File Explorer in this first. Well, okay. Our first round of improvements will focus on quicker launch experience, reduced flicker. I'm not quite sure what they mean by flicker.
If you have a bad graphics card, since there was flicker in the window, apparently.
Weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Smoother navigation and more reliable performance for everyday file tasks.
I don't know if more reliable performance means drawing the window and listing. Like one of the things that happens is if you can get your folders in a situation where you have the wrong preset on the folder and it tries to scan the metadata of all the items in the folder. Like
I hate that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's like
your downloads folder is the place this happens most commonly, I think.
Yeah, downloads I don't mind so much. Like you can turn that on and off. That's like the group by function where it's like group by date, you know.
Not that one. I'm talking about
you're talking about the type of content,
the type of metadata that it thinks it should look for. Yeah,
list this folder as music files. List this as documents. I I don't mind that idea in principle, but it's just implemented so poorly.
Their implementation is awful.
There are like 4 or 5 random folders on my machine that just will not obey that setting no matter what I do, and constantly are reverting themselves.
Well, and the thing that happens when you're a user is that all of a sudden you have 3 folders on your computer that just take an incredible amount of time to open.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible experience.
Yeah, or I'd even go further here. Like the directory that I save all podcast recordings into, I try to sort by date. Mm-hmm. It absolutely will not remember the sort by date no matter what I do every single time.
Is it on your NAS or is it on your local machine?
It's just a local folder on my desktop.
That's wild.
And it just refuses to stick the sort by dates. So like more consistency around stuff like that. I would even go further here. I'm maybe cannibalizing one of my suggestions a little bit. Also, we should maybe say we didn't tell each other what our ideas are for improving Windows, so it'll be a surprise when we get to the end of this. This is probably a deeper thing that's going to take much more time, and this might actually be lower level than File Explorer, but the ability to basically ruin File Explorer by doing anything where the I/O operation just can't complete, like putting in a USB thumb drive that happens to be starting to go, or a bad external hard drive that's crapping out.
Handling fail points is an important
like failure handling is like it'll bring all of File Explorer down, where like if you're in the computer view, it won't populate any drive because it can't read from that one drive, and that's just like a terrible experience.
Yeah,
like it should make it clear what's going wrong and isolate that thing that's going wrong, and not completely freeze or block the entire rest of the application.
So I hope they're also talking about performance for like file copies and stuff like that, because the file copy performance, especially for many small files on Windows versus every other OS I use, is terrible. And part of it's because of the way the file system works. Part of it's because the File Explorer interface has been bad at that forever. So anyway,
they get it. We'll get into that when they bring File Explorer back up several months from now. I believe they're we'll touch on that again.
So let's see. The next one is more control over widgets and feed experiences. Okay, this is one of those things that I think is really interesting, because this is always the first thing I turn off in Windows.
Yeah, that was my first comment on this item is, do you use widgets? Because I don't.
So my daughter loves them, right? So she has the weather widget on her computer, and she sees that, and then she gets annoyed because sometimes it just changes location randomly.
Huh. I did kind of suspect that widgets might be a bit of a generational divide, because I think they kind of originate in mobile, right? Like phones have had widgets for much longer than desktop operating systems.
No, Congregate started.
I think they're like the modern iteration of widgets. Obviously, there were widgets 20, 25 years ago that were mostly third-party installs, but like iOS has been successively adding more and more widgets over time in different places.
I think widgets came to iOS and Windows at around the same time. It was probably a little bit later in Windows, but not that much.
Yeah.
This current incarnation though is mostly about selling shit and getting you to go to Microsoft services.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at the lock screen, the welcome screen, there's multiple different views of that. One of them is a like programmatic welcome screen that you have zero control over anything on the actual screen other than to say, yes, I want Microsoft to feed me dynamic wallpapers and also whatever the latest business on MSN and their weather apps and their partners is.
So you can turn all that stuff off, but you have to turn all of it off.
It's all or nothing.
Yeah, you have to lose the dynamic wallpapers and everything, I believe.
Yeah, I also don't know what the Discover feed is. I wasn't able to figure it out. So interesting there.
Yeah, improved personalization for the Discover feed. I couldn't tell you.
Simpler, more transparent Windows Insider program. This is great. They're going to communicate more. I think Microsoft being better at communication doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know about you. I am never, ever, ever going to run an Insider version of Windows. So this is not relevant to me at all. But it seems like a good thing to beef up your testing program.
Yeah, and then the improved Feedback Hub. Which have you ever used the Feedback Hub?
I have not.
You can only access it from Windows.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like a website, but you can only get to it from Windows.
Should I launch it for the first time as we speak?
You can if you want, but it's like I've left feedback before.
There's a suggest a feature button.
Yeah, it's been there for a long time. I don't think they do anything with it.
Probably not. Well, that's of course. I mean, we did some kind of tips and tricks episode not long ago, and I feel like you said suggest more features.
I did that on Mac OS, and they added the thing that I wanted for the Apple stuff.
Maybe Apple is more reactive.
I mean, you can try something, yeah.
Because a couple of mine that I have for the end of the episode are things I would dearly love to see them do.
Well, I mean, I think we should go down the rest of this list real quickly. The post-April updates are basically focused on performance. They talk about system performance, more responsive apps, making File Explorer have lower latency for search and navigation.
Yeah, we should go through each one of these because there's some granular stuff in here that's actually worth talking about.
Okay.
I don't know if these are all supposed to be by the end of the year, or I think over the course of the year is how they phrase this. Over the course of the year, we're improving blah, blah, blah. Okay, improving system performance. Faster and more responsive Windows experiences with early improvements already delivering launch time reductions in apps like File Explorer. We kind of already covered that.
Yep.
Improved memory efficiency, lowering the baseline memory footprint for Windows, freeing up more capacity for the apps you run.
Hey, Apple just released a MacBook Neo that has 8 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
And Windows partners can't work in that space.
Yeah, true. Although, I mean, as we've talked about before, like MacBooks partially get around this problem with their very tightly vertically integrated OS and hardware stack.
Well, and by churning SSD.
That's why. Yeah. That's why, because Apple controls every single piece of their ecosystem from the literal metal on up to the user experience. Like they know exactly what they have, and so yes, they page to the SSD very aggressively in a way that helps paper over memory stuff. But also, we live in a world that's memory constrained all of a sudden. So, this makes sense. But making things more memory efficient obviously is like self-evidently a good.
Yeah.
There is an element of this, though, where I feel like people are maybe a little too obsessive about staring at their free RAM.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying anybody should ever stare at that. It's not like I know that I have 44 gigs of RAM free right now. I have that on my taskbar in Linux. I can just tell.
That's a fair amount of RAM free.
I feel good about that.
In fact, I think I would go further and not just it's not just user behavior here. It's also like there is kind of a whole class of grifty tech grifter social media posts, basically just posting like memory usage screenshots of things and talking about how unoptimized everything is. I mean,
look, there's a big difference between. For me, this matters when you feel it, right?
Yes,
like when you run out of memory in your hard drive and you're churning and launching applications takes a long time, or opening a file takes a long time, or whatever. That's the problem, not that the number is too high.
Yes, that's exactly it. I've seen this like on Discords recently, not our Discord to be clear. I was on a different server, but I've seen people hemming and hawing, wringing their hands over how much memory they have free. Well, I guess the thing, and like, look, I'm not a computer scientist here, but the thing that I think people they don't misunderstand, they just have a low understanding of this concept, is that modern operating systems are generally pretty good at managing memory, but they use memory aggressively. Yeah. Like every OS aggressively uses the memory you have, because not using memory is a huge waste.
Yeah, you have it in there, you're powering it, you might as well take advantage of it.
Like I've spent kind of an embarrassing amount of time looking at how Linux handles this kind of thing. Like there are all kinds of different like caches and sort of memory mapped things that Linux will temporarily put in memory with what is effectively like a very low priority, where it can be evicted from memory very quickly when something actually needs that memory. Like empty RAM is a wasted RAM, basically, is what I'm saying. So like, just because you look at a thing and see most of your memory full doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing. Like, in fact, I mean, memory is the fastest storage in your machine. Like, you should be using it for something.
And like avoid the grifters. It reminds me of the old phone tips that were like, hey, every day you need to open up your task closer interface on your phone, whether it's Android or iOS, and swipe all those applications closed.
I still see people doing that.
When that actually has a real negative impact, because it means that instead of saving the state of the machine on the flash memory of the device so that it can start, you have to start it every time, which hits your battery. And anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, you don't have to obsess about this. But Windows, it has gotten kind of RAM hoggy over the last 10 years.
Yeah, like I believe there absolutely are inefficiencies there. In fact, the next item on this list is one of those. But The last thing here, more consistent performance even under load. I mean, that's one of those hand wavy ones that like maybe they will do that, but this is not quantifiable in the scope of this blog post. So not much to say.
That to me says, hey, if you have something running on one window that's using a lot of resources, then the rest of the machines should still feel responsive.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And that's like a thread scheduler and RAM management and all these problems.
So like it would be great to hear more specific information like that about what they're actually talking about here. But this is so vague, it's hard to know exactly what they mean.
Each of these bullet points could be its own blog post explaining how they're going to approach this.
That's fair. More fluid and responsive app interactions.
Yeah, this one, Jesus.
Reducing interaction latency by moving core Windows experiences to the WinUI 3 framework.
What's the WinUI 3 framework, Brad?
It's their newest windowing API, as I was able to gather looking at it. It's written in C++ and C#, so it's basically the lowest level current windowing.
It's fast and good.
Yes,
generally speaking.
Yeah, I don't know how this like what are some of the past ones.
There's Win32 and all the Wasapi and all the there's been a bazillion of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is Wasapi one? No, that's audio.
Yeah, I don't know what the specific windowing ones are. I think Win32 is just kind of the general runtime. I don't know what the graphics windowing layer of that is, but anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, as far as I know, WinUI 3 is basically the newest iteration of that kind of stuff. I think it's the one that looks like Windows 11 stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the modern right click menu, I believe, in Windows 11 is a WinUI thing.
GDI is the old one. And then they did, I guess WinUI was the one thing that replaced that, but that might be a retronym.
Anyway, I think what this really is them talking around the fact that it came to light in the last year or so that parts of the Windows 11 UI are written in things like React Native. Did not go over well at all.
They did a bunch of web UI stuff, and people have been blaming the slow right click on this, the slow right click menu on this, a bunch of other things. It's the only thing I know of for sure that was written in React is the recommended pane in the start menu.
Yeah, that's because I looked this up right before we recorded to remind myself that they themselves revealed that at a React Native conference. They basically were like, hey, look at the React stuff we're doing in Windows, and pointed to that start menu stuff. Yeah. And that did not go over well.
No, people mocked them.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm no web developer, but should you be using web frameworks for OS native UI elements? Probably not.
When we have access to low level and faster compiled languages, it seems goofy to use web frameworks for that. What do I know?
The excuse for things like Electron is that you need those apps to be cross-platform easily, or, it's too much work to do native apps. It's too much work to do 3 different native versions of Discord when you can just make it an Electron app and it works on everything. Windows does not have that problem because Windows runs on Windows.
Yeah. Well, except for Windows runs on ARM and Windows runs on x86 now. So maybe they do actually have that problem.
Yeah. But I mean, those native APIs are going to work on everything that Windows runs on. Like this just seems like a unilateral positive.
Yeah. Maybe we had a bad experiment here and we need to get rid of it.
Yes. Improving File Explorer fundamentals. We kind of covered that stuff, but substantially lower latency for search, navigation, and context menus. I think let's touch on search again later.
Yeah.
Copying and moving large files will be faster and more reliable.
That's exciting.
Interesting that they say large files.
I think this large files are okay, but not great. The small files seem like they have a big passel of small files is a real problem.
Yes. Well, like we talked about on the Q&A a few weeks ago, a lot of that is just down to hardware limitations.
Well, no, it's down to file system limitations, which is a software problem.
Well, no, those are hardware level. The IOPS thing is a hardware level gate, regardless of what file system you're using.
Fair. Okay.
Faster launch and responsiveness for common file. We kind of covered the File Explorer stuff already.
And there's some stuff here about Windows Subsystem for Linux I don't think we need to get into.
Oh, actually, there are 2 things I want to touch on here.
Okay.
Please permit me. You don't use WSL2, do you?
No, I run Linux. I don't need that.
I guess so. Faster file performance between Linux and Windows. That one's actually super interesting to me because I do work in WSL2 every day. There is a huge performance penalty if you access anything on the Windows part of the storage versus doing it natively inside the virtual hard drive that WSL2 runs in.
So it gives you a VHD that's formatted like ext2 or something?
Yeah, it's a VHDX, yes. that your Linux distro lives in that's formatted ext4.
And then do they mount your C drive as like /mount/C or something?
All of your permanent drives, not removables, but permanent drives in the machine get mounted into the WSL2 instance automatically.
That's weird.
Here's the interesting part.
Yeah.
File IO between what's inside the Linux thing and the Windows parts of the storage is done over a protocol called 9P.
Okay.
Which is the network data protocol from the operating system Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh yeah, of course.
Dude, you know Plan 9, right?
Are you familiar with the movie? I don't know what Plan 9 is. No,
dude. You would.
Is this an episode?
I was just about to say we could do an episode on this. You would have to do a ton of reading. I would have to do about 99% as much reading as you because I barely.
Okay.
But what Plan 9 from Outer Space is the sequel to Unix. Like literally Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie and the people at Bell Labs who created Unix went on to make a successor operating system at Bell Labs called Plan 9. And all I know about it is apparently, okay, the everything is a file concept in Unix, all the Unix philosophy bullet points those guys came up with. They apparently extended all those metaphors out like dramatically in Plan 9 in ways that everybody who has ever used Plan 9 said is like mind blowing. But none of it ever caught on because nobody ever used Plan 9 because the entire industry had like long standardized on Unix already at that point.
Yeah.
So it was basically just turned out to be kind of an academic experiment that was cool but forgotten.
Wow.
Apparently the way Plan 9 is able to blend network resources and printers and file systems and everything into one giant pool and networked computers is like, I've seen it described as achingly elegant before.
Okay.
Apparently it's like a fascinating approach to computing generally. And I don't know a ton more than that other than, again, all the people that I've seen who have actually used Plan 9 speak like incredibly highly of it. And this was in the 80s also.
I have an idea. I think what you should do, I think we should make you one of those sandwich boards like people wear on the sides of the streets. And I think next time we go to the flea market, you should have a sandwich board that says, talk to me about Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yes, tell me about Plan 9. There's probably somebody at that
flea
market who has used Plan 9. I think there are modern, I think the most recently maintained version is only a few years old. I think you can technically still run it on modern hardware. Anyway, sorry, that was just an old operating system digression, but apparently 9P is used in all kinds of places these days. And one of the places is in Windows Subsystem for Linux 2. They use it to access the Windows drives. Anyway, I wonder if they're replacing that whole thing.
I mean,
and doing some more direct IO because it's really noticeable because I'm crunching podcasts and videos. Like when I encode this is a long story, but I encode the Ramblecast video in Linux to a Windows drive, and you can see it. You can see a difference if I use FFmpeg in the Linux to a Windows drive versus if I use the FFmpeg in Windows to the Windows drive.
Yeah,
huge obvious difference in how fast.
Well, talking from inside a VM to outside a VM is always challenging, right? It's a problem on Linux too. It's often faster to use an external hard drive, mount it in the Windows VM, and then disconnect it, reconnect it to the Linux VM, and copy it back in than it is to move it across a network share or something like that.
Yeah,
but that's cool.
Yeah, real quick, improved network compatibility and throughput. I've never noticed that being a problem, but I guess that's cool. More streamlined first-time setup and onboarding experience. That's definitely a good thing because there's 3 different ways to get started with this thing right now. And it's kind of a mess knowing which one you should do. Should you download your Ubuntu from the Windows Store?
That feels weird.
Or should you run WSL dash install?
Do they all do the same thing?
They basically all get you to the same place, although yes and no, because I think in some cases your Linux distro ends up being a UWP packaged app. And in other cases,
yuck.
It's just a VHD. Yes,
my God.
Yes, it is kind of yuck. Exactly. So real quick, I promise I won't hijack the rest of the episode with this, but I've actually just yesterday and today have gone the complete other direction with this thing.
Okay.
Because it finally hit me, or I finally noticed that they have now added the ability to export the distros you're already running.
Oh, as a VHD?
To either a VHD or a tarball. And then you can import those back in as distros that are not attached to the Windows Store. Or you can actually, a lot of distros are putting out .wsl files, like Arch.
Oh, God.
Like Arch and NixOS, you can just go to their websites and download a .wsl.
And then just dump that in.
Run that, and it'll just add itself as a distro.
Is it already installed? Like, is it an image that's installed, or do you have to go to an installer?
Yeah. There's no installer. It's ready to use. Anyway, long story short, I now just have all the distros that I tinker with in WSL as VHDs on a drive. And those VHDs are portable. I can import them back into a new Windows install later. I can back them up on my NAS. Like I've fully decoupled it from the Windows Store and all the UWP bullshit in a way that makes me very happy. So anyway,
makes it easier to back up too.
Okay, sorry, that was my Linux minute.
Another top level point here is reliability.
Yes,
he describes this as the bedrock of trust, which not wrong.
Sure.
They're talking about strengthening reliability and quality of the Windows Insider program, which is great. Support your beta testers.
That's stuff we touched on already.
Increasing OS driver and app reliability, also good. Reducing OS level crashes, that's fantastic. Making it so the drivers don't take out the thing. They're not talking about secure boot here and locking down the kernel, but that seems to be something that's coming as well.
Yeah.
Just to reduce the CrowdStrike situation in the future.
Sure. This strengthening driver quality and app reliability across our vibrant ecosystem of Silicon, ISV, and OEM partners, like, doesn't that depend on those partners? Like, how much
they could be providing testing. Like, the thing is, there's ways in the old days you had the IHV labs and the Windows WICL labs that would do hardware and software qualification, and they don't so much do that anymore. It seems like.
Okay, that's fair, because I mean, like, I think a lot of people know like the crappy like driver for your LAN interface on your motherboard that was abandoned and not updated for the last 3 years that doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like people being at the mercy of the crappy vendor drivers for their hardware.
Yep.
Is a tale as old as time.
I like this last one, more consistent device wake, including further wake consistency improvements for docking scenarios.
Yeah, that's
I note he doesn't mention the warm laptop bag problem, which is a unique to Windows experience. See, you have a MacBook, so you've never had this happen before. But often when you take your Windows laptop, you put it in your bag, you get on the airplane, you get to 10,000 feet. You're like, oh, I'm going to get my laptop out and do some work. And it's been cooking in there the whole time. So, better sleep. Improving Windows Update seems good. The less disruption. So moving to a single monthly reboot seems like it makes a lot of sense for people who don't shut their computer down every night. Yeah,
it seems like most of the security updates they roll out, well, like, you're not in Windows as much as I am these days, but like most of the sort of Windows Defender definitions,
that's all silent. Yeah,
those and they don't require reboots typically from what I've seen. So getting it so you only have to actually do the big reboot once a month is desirable.
Yeah, the more control, including ability to pause for as long as you need, restart or shut down without being forced to install updates. That I get. I don't understand why. Like, I can always choose to reboot even if I have an update pending, it seems like.
Without updating?
Without updating.
Interesting.
I don't know if I did something to make that happen at some point. And built-in recovery is nice as well. Let's see, they talk about biometric authentication a little bit, which that's fine. But and then the craft is the good stuff. This is the improving the taskbar and start menu experience. Making consistent, dependable, making them enabling personalization so you can put them wherever you want and make them behave the way you want them to. And
smaller taskbar. What could that mean? That sounds exciting.
I love my 20 pixel high bar in Linux. Yeah. Like, it just has all my stuff in it.
Yeah. Or, like the Mac OS menu bar is a good size, I think, for something like that. Like small. In fact, I mean, variable taskbar size used to be another Windows feature. Remember that?
Wait, you can make it not go all the way across?
No. I'm talking vertically.
Oh, vertical. Yeah. Like, you can make it short. Yeah.
Like when Windows 95, you could just drag it up and down.
Yeah. You could have it doubled height. You could have 2 rows of icons down there if you were a monster.
I am curious about smaller taskbar.
More focused experience with less distractions. So setup is faster and quieter with fewer pages and reboots. I hope this also includes things like not trying to sell you Game Pass and Office if you already have them.
It says device setup on new PCs is quieter and more streamlined. I have to hope that means fewer upsells.
Man, I bet it doesn't, but we can dream. Widgets surface information more intentionally by default. I don't know what that means. That seems like a nonsense phrase. Simpler settings make it easier to personalize, opt into, or turn off widgets and feed content based on your preferences. That seems nice. Reduce notifications so you can stay focused. That also, like the number of notifications I get from Windows just has me leave Windows in D&D all the time. Sure. Do not disturb. Sorry, not Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
And then enhancing search. This is one that matters because, look, my official policy is to install search, everything search.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I'll touch on that when we get to my ideas.
And well, did you know that there's an integration with that Spotlight bar now? The Power Toy.
Well, wait, so there's an everything integration.
There's an everything integration for that.
Command Palette?
Is it Command Palette?
Yeah, Command Palette is the new one. Power Toy's Run is the original one.
Power Toy, yeah, there's an integration with Run for sure. I don't know about the Command Palette.
Dude, what? I have to look into that.
Yeah.
Well, as we'll get to, I'm just cannibalizing my stuff here. Maybe they should build their own solution for that, but still.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting.
More consistent search. Like, here's the thing. They say things. My big frustration with Windows search, the place I use it most, is to mash the Windows key and then I type the name of an application that I want to start. Totally. I've talked about this 1,000 times on this podcast. I'm sorry for bringing it up again, but it's the stupidest thing in the world that, like, 1 out of 3 times when you do that, you get a Bing search result.
So to this day, I just pulled up the start menu and typed store.
Yep.
Microsoft Store is the second result. The first one is pointing to some random like store library file that is not runnable or actionable. I don't know what that is.
So, like, getting the priority on that stuff in the start menu especially is really simple. If you're typing something in the start menu, you want to launch an application or you want to launch a file that you have used recently, right? If there's a conflict, let the user decide which one you prioritize. Don't just make a decision or kick it to the web, which is like the worst possible outcome in this.
Or give the user some granular control over what types of things surface in that search, which they don't do. Like they finally, in some way, they finally gave you the ability to turn off web searches, like Bing searches in there.
No, they didn't.
Or do you still have to?
You have to do a regedit.
I did that through group policy, actually.
Yeah, group policy edit or regedit, either one will work.
Yeah, you're okay. So they should add that, even that. But also, you should be able to tell it not to search files. Like, I don't need the start menu to search files on my computer. I'm there to find the app I want to launch.
When they originally rolled out that search feature in Windows Vista, I think you chose, hey, do you want to search the web? No. Do you want to search files? No. Do you want to search settings? Yeah, actually, that one's useful. I like that.
An awful lot of this whole conversation is just about various functionality that Windows used to have that they have slowly taken away over time.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is about, well, okay, so let's get to the prescriptive phase of this whole thing, right? Where we tell them how to fix this because we're smart and we're podcasters and we know what we're doing.
Okay, I'm going to claim the first one because it is literally what we were just talking about. Like it just makes sense to go ahead and finish the thought. Yeah, it's basically what their last item was about. They should just create some kind of everything style file indexing service for Windows and give you instantaneous, up-to-date file search.
They used to have that. It was called Windows Search. It was in Windows for like a good 10 years.
And did it actually work? Because it has been so long.
A loaded question.
It has been so long since I used the search field in File Explorer that I can't even remember when it used to actually ever work, if it ever really did.
So Windows Search was a XP Vista era thing. I think it was software they released for XP as an add-on that you can download.
Oh, okay, I never used that then. If that was a separate install, I don't know what that is.
Well, and then they integrated it with Vista, and it wasn't as good in Vista, is my recollection. The search inside files was always iffy. It was good at text files and stuff like that. It wasn't good at other stuff. And the problem,
I don't even need search inside files. I would love to have search inside files, but I would be happy with search file names working correctly.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't know that kind of search is a thing that people want in 2026.
What?
I know you want that because you're the right kind of nerd to want that. But I think
we cannot have the abstracted file systems conversation here. We cannot have, the everything should be Google Drive thing is like, that might be a red line for me in terms of like, I might just be tapping out of computers if that's the way everything is going.
Look, this is why I'm using Linux, Brad. I think you're not wrong. I think that look, this is one of those places, and I assume that they still do this. They used to have huge user data teams at Microsoft where they brought in normal people. They paid them like $20 to sit there for an hour and they watched how they used a computer and they based a lot of their decisions on those kinds of interactions, like watching those interactions and how people who don't give a shit about computers use their computers as a tool.
I fully get that, and I have no problem with it being there as an option.
This is my first one.
Okay.
My first one is they got to stop shaving the edges off of everything.
Okay, sure.
Like they've made the entire OS smooth Yoda at this point.
Yeah. And
like, yes, it's great that they appeal to the most mainstream possible audience, but it means that anybody who wants more from their computer has to jump through a bunch of insane hoops. And it's stuff like installing your profile folders to OneDrive by default so that you can't find that stuff if you want to find that stuff. It makes it difficult to access. It's stuff like forcing you to reboot when you don't need to reboot. It's stuff like installing drivers when you already have a driver that you've manually installed that's newer than that driver. It's stuff like Winget being kind of in a weird in-between state of a feature that like power users want, but then they don't support it particularly well. And you end up with weird things like you type Discord into it and there's 18 Discord applications and you don't know which one is the real Discord. But yeah, they have made this thing so easy to use that if you want to make the machine your own, it's almost impossible to. UI, back end, the whole thing.
Yes, strong agree. Like another one of my bullet points in that vein is that they need to make the process of doing file associations not a nightmare again. Have you tried to?
I just do open with awful. And then pick
it is
the
awful. It's awful when you're trying to do it in bulk.
Oh yeah.
Like I install some fairly not unconventional, like they're very popular programs, but they're not like grab it from the Windows Store or it's not the thing that ships with Windows. Like I still use Irfan View for like browsing images because it's extremely fast. You remember that thing?
Mm-hmm.
I use MPV as my video and audio player.
Mm-hmm.
Like I install those from Scoop with the package manager. Getting Windows to see those Scoop installs of those two applications as viable media viewers that it will then let me associate with file types is a nightmare.
Oh, it doesn't just happen when you run it the first time and then it registers?
I've had some luck with that, just trying to open the file and then telling it use this application every time, but that doesn't always stick. But also I don't want to have to do that for every single extension, every file. Like I don't want to have to go find a file of every type I want to associate with the thing and do that over and over. I want to check a list or what I want to do some bulk thing, because how many different video file and audio file extensions are there?
Yeah,
there's a bajillion of them. And the way they expose them right now in the settings, you have to go through either by application or by file type. You have to go through every single file type and change it to the program automatically. And that's assuming that it identified MPV as a valid video player that I can use for that purpose in the first place. It's the worst it has ever been.
I wonder if that's a byproduct of the legal settlement about the monopoly stuff in the EU.
Interesting. I don't know.
Well, this is the corollary. You've hit the corollary to my first point, which is they smooth off the stuff that doesn't matter, and they don't actually handle common OS pain points particularly well.
Yeah.
So things like this is a perfect example. Hey, I want VLC to open all my video files. There's no easy way to tell it open all video with VLC. There's no easy way to say open all the web stuff with Firefox.
For a while there was. It's not there anymore. I think it was Windows 10 era. For a while, they did have those common buckets of like, here are all the common video file types. What do you want to use as your video player? And that actually worked okay for a while, but they took it away, and B, their definition of what counted as a video player was not as broad as it should have been.
I think that might be on the software side. I think you have to register as the right type of MIME handler. But anyway, why did they get rid of the old Windows backup tool? Why have they actually? I know why they did that. It's because they had to pay somebody a per user license every time somebody fired that thing up. But they should build a backup tool that makes it easy to back up to a NAS, an external storage, or the cloud, and let that be a user choice. Right?
Sure.
It's a core part of the OS functionality. Every other modern OS ships with that. Why are video card vendors and Valve making tools that handle things like distributing compiled shaders for games? That seems like an Xbox app or DirectX feature. That should be just something that the OS handles. This is what I expect OSs to do, is take away those pain points. Where's a core API that gives access to things like AI upscaling and frame gen and latency acceleration for games? That's another core OS functionality that they just don't do. What's the, I mean, I have a bazillion of these. I'm not going to belabor it, but
no.
Like they don't actually make the things that are confusing. Why do they not default? Why do they default when you plug in a monitor that's a high refresh rate monitor? Why does it default that to 60 hertz? If you have they know you have the panel, they know you have the cable, they know you have the video card. Put it at 120, man.
I've seen like 2 or 3 instances in the last few months of people saying that they bought a high refresh monitor and then never changed it off of 60 for like a year, and then when they finally did, their brain exploded.
Yeah. Abby, I was talking to Abby Russell the other day, who just bought a new monitor. I was like, "Hey, did you set the refresh rate in Windows?" She's like, "No, why would I have to do that?" I was like, "Yeah, you do." She's like, "Oh, this is a lot better."
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, why do they not? They don't protect the users from doing things that are going to hurt their use. They're only doing the users that prevent them from doing things that cost Microsoft money or don't make Microsoft money.
Yep.
Stop selling stuff all the time, man.
Well, okay, let me add to that.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. Okay, this one will never happen because it's just not the type of company they are anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, maybe start charging for Windows again.
Look.
Because
yeah,
do you remember what on our scientifically determined ranking of Windows was the number one Windows?
Was it Windows 7?
It was Windows 7.
Yeah.
Do you remember when the last time that I paid for a Windows license?
I'm using a Windows 7 license today.
Like Windows 7 is the last boxed copy of Windows that I just paid for outright and installed on my computer, and like that's the last time that I think everybody acknowledges Windows was universally like go figure, when Windows basically started becoming free, they found all the other shittier ways to monetize it.
So I have on my list under the Smooth Yoda section of the OS, I can't believe I'm suggesting this, but I would pay for a stripped down enthusiast version of the OS.
I've been saying this for like months, at least in my head, if not out loud.
Yeah.
Like I would happily go back to paying, I don't know, $100 for a copy of Windows or whatever they want.
Yeah.
For a better version of Windows that fixed all these problems and pulled out all the bullshit.
I'm happy to pay to be the customer.
Yes. Like I'd always
rather be the customer than the product.
Yes. I would happily rather start paying for the product again instead of being the product.
So yeah, I mean, that definitely goes with the selling stuff constantly, but like stuff like pitching Office and Game Pass when I'm already paying for both of those things feels like it's the worst feeling in the world. It's like it's like you're being marketed to by somebody who's incredibly incompetent.
Yep.
Tying features that I like that cool wallpapers from the internet on the Windows Hello screen. Like I love getting a different wallpaper when I log into the computer and it's something that surprises and delights me. That's great.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see an ad bump for how many people have been bombed today, or what horrible earthquake happened in Southeast Asia, or some natural disaster that's going to be just a huge bummer when I'm sitting down to turn on my computer at the start of the day. That sucks. Yeah. Don't tie those things together.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever put Bing in the start menu they should be in The Hague. Like it's the worst OS decision Microsoft has made ever. I think it's just profoundly stupid.
You should be able to limit the start menu to just searching apps that are listed in the start menu.
Yeah, weird.
I've got a couple other small ones here. These are the types of things that I should and probably will go type into that suggest a feature thing.
Okay.
They added tabs to File Explorer some years ago, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I like that.
They should absolutely give you an option to make it default that anytime you open a storage link, like anytime you open anything that will spawn a File Explorer window, which you often do, you should have the option to have all of those open in your existing File Explorer window that's already sitting there.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Currently, there's no way to do. So even though you have tabs, every time, like, because, applications will spawn a File Explorer window occasionally when they're like, hey, go here, go to this location. Like the screenshot tool, the snipping tool does that, for example. You take a screenshot with the snipping tool, there's a link right there that's like, open this file in storage. That's opening a new File Explorer window that you then have to drag the tab of into your existing window if you want everything in one place. Like, it's just insane that's like they put the tabs in, but did not make it so you can easily have all the tabs go to the same place.
I got one.
Okay, go ahead.
Core OS applications like Notepad and Task Manager and let's see what else. They should open insane. They should File Manager should all be instantaneous on any hardware that will run Windows 11.
Sure.
Like if they take longer than a quarter of a second to open, somebody at Microsoft should be getting like the data from that machine so they can figure out why it's slow.
Agreed.
Because the benefit of doing a cutoff of an 8-year-old of everything older than 8 years old when they did this jump to Windows 11 is that the hardware is good at this point.
Agreed.
You got another one?
I've got some others that are still other kind of little usability improvements. They had something like this in Windows 10 and they took it away. Maybe you're noticing a theme.
Yeah, weird.
The ability to like basically better window management, better like minimize and restore behavior. Like I have a ton of windows open. I do like got 2 monitors. I do a lot of media work, like I've just got a lot of stuff open all the time. You should have the option to minimize and restore all the windows that belong to the same application in like
you
one
can't
action.
do that?
Not anymore.
Oh boy.
You used to be able to shift right click the icon on the taskbar and hit minimize and they would all minimize. That is gone now.
I didn't know that.
And also wild. Like, so the show desktop functionality is still in there. You can do Win key D to do that, or I think you can still click to yes, I just did it. You can still click to the right of the system clock to make all your windows minimize. You should be able to restore all of those to the previous position, which you cannot do. Like the fact that I can't just click that button again to have everything go back exactly like it was.
It sucks.
Like better kind of grouping, like the way Mac OS handles windows that belong to the same application makes more sense to me. You can hide an entire application at one time.
We have,
which you can't do here.
This whole metaphor for controlling software on an OS hasn't changed in 20 years. Yeah. Like they added the snap corners and the snap edges.
Snapping is decent.
Windows
actually.
8, I guess, which I like. They're good.
Well, Windows actually, that's one thing Windows is doing well these days is the snapping, especially with fancy zones. But even without it, it's like pretty robust now. But
no, they could do better. There's a lot of room for improvement. Yeah. And like they should be pushing this stuff forward. They shouldn't have to look at what people are doing with Linux and Mac OS and then lift that. They should be coming up with novel new ways for people to interact with computers that aren't, hey, buy a tablet.
Sure.
Firefox has a big giant button in it now that says turn AI off. They should have that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great feature.
Let me do you one better.
Yeah.
What if they had a big button that said turn AI on?
Yeah.
Like what if it defaulted
like you
to
opt
off?
in?
Yeah. What if you had to opt into it?
That's madness. That'll never happen. But yes, opting in sounds great. I bet their stockholders have feelings about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got one more and then I'm out. But
all right.
I'm going to say that Windows documentation hasn't been good in about 15 years at this point.
Are you saying they should start shipping those big, thick white books again?
I think that when they killed the knowledge base, they made an enormous opportunity for scammers and fraud. And there's a lot of good sites. Like there's Stack Overflow and there's a bunch of places where you get good Windows information. But there's also a lot of AI spam sites now that are just trying to sell people like memory doublers and Windows registry cleaners and garbage like that doesn't actually do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that void exists because they don't have an authoritative source for a lot of information that's not their message boards.
That's fair. I will say they're sort of like their developer documentation and more kind of nerdy adjacent stuff is like the WSL2 documentation is pretty good and stuff like that. But yes, for the more mainstream user interface type stuff, you're right.
Mike Denseglio, who is a contributor at PC World, he does security stuff for us over there. Worked at Microsoft for a long time. He was one of the people behind BitLocker.
Oh yeah. I've heard him on that Dual Boot Diaries like special interview with him.
Yeah. He was saying that when they added the QR codes on the blue screen, originally each of those was supposed to go to a discrete page where it told you how to solve, like what the blue screen you got meant and how to solve it if it was fixable.
Cool. That would have been cool.
And then they didn't have budget to make the content for that, so they didn't do it.
That stinks.
Yeah.
Now they don't even let you see the crash dump or whatever it is long enough to scan the QR code before it goes away.
No. Well, you can fix that by enabling full dumps instead of mini dumps. But anyway, what you got?
That kind of, I burned they should just start charging for Windows again as my closer, unfortunately. But that's most of my stuff. I mean, there's certainly more stuff I could come up with. Like virtual desktop management should be better. They have made that worse in Windows 11.
I think that ways that fits in the UI hasn't changed in a meaningful way in a long time.
Like it used to be that if you have something like Chrome or File Explorer where you can have multiple windows, multiple instances of the same thing, it used to be that if you had that open on one desktop, but you went to another desktop where it wasn't open and clicked the icon, it would just open a new instance of it on that desktop, which obviously is what you're trying to do. Now
it just smacks you back to the other desktop.
Yes. Now, if you had it open on a different desktop, it will instead just send you back to the previous desktop that the app is open on and open that version. It's like, I need a new file explorer window over here on my work desktop. Like, what the?
See, that's why. Like, I'm going to take it one step further. I think that if you should have a different taskbar and different settings for you should be able to set that stuff up differently for your different desktops, right?
And give people some customization options around how they want those things to behave, because different people have different mental models for how those things should work, and like some amount of variability would be nice there.
Yes, that's it. Microsoft, we would like some amount of variability, please.
Yes, sure. I take this blog post as a good sign, generally. Like the fact that they felt compelled to post this and that they've got like a pretty well-ordered list of priorities they're going to tackle, and some of those actually do sound kind of useful. Like I'm optimistic that they, regardless of their motivations, which it seems like it's mostly out of desperation.
Yeah.
Like that, hey, please don't hate us any more than you already do. But I'm hopeful this is headed in a good direction, but time will tell.
I felt pretty good about it until the hey, we've taken the Copilot stuff out of Notepad and Paint turned out to be just renaming it, and then that feels bad.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear what you all think. What would you like to see Microsoft fix in Windows? You can post them to us in the Discord or send them to techpod@content.town. I think we have questions and answers coming up next week, so maybe we'll hit some of the faves. I would also encourage people to send them into the feedback hub. It seems like they're actually going to pay attention to that in a way that maybe. Now that you mention it, like if they were ever going to look at these suggestions and bug reports, now is probably the time. Yeah.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Also, for people on our Discord chatting in this week's thread, this goes for them too. Anybody who's switched to Linux from Windows. Also, I don't know if this is asking you to like burn future dual boot diaries material.
No, let's do it.
Could you see yourself ever switching back at this point? Could you be enticed to make it your daily driver again if it got better?
I mean, look, in the capitalist state that we live in, if I have an employer that runs Windows, I'm going to run Windows, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, if you have a reason you have to, that's different. But like, in your current state.
If I started, like right now, it's convenient because the games that I'm playing most run on Linux pretty well.
Sure.
If I got real into Marathon or something that doesn't run on Linux, maybe we can have a conversation. I can't imagine. I feel like I've gotten to a point with productivity stuff where I'm much more like the way window handling works for me now is so much better than I've ever had in Windows before.
That's actually,
it would be hard to go back.
I started to put introduce a tiling window option.
This is what I'm talking about.
But I didn't put it on my list because I just assumed you would put it on yours.
Nobody is driving UI forward at this point, really, except for the Linux people. And like, they're doing amazing stuff over there. It is the what was it? The Cosmic people, when we had them on Dual Boot Diaries, the people from System 76 who make the Cosmic desktop and their just Pop OS said that they added a toggle in on workspaces for tiling. And then like 3 days later, they were walking around the office and all the people that were on the dog food build with that had switched to tiling for all of their desktops. And because like the fancy zones and the corner snapping and all that stuff is convenient and good, but having the OS just place the windows for you, it turns out is transformative. Because the whole point of this is that you don't have to think about it. And if you set it up right, your windows are just always in the exact same place and you develop muscle memory around that stuff, which is really, really nice.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to think of the last time a commercial operating system feels like it really innovated in the user interface department. And like
Apple introduced Expose.
That's exactly. In fact, I was going to say gestures, like multi-touch gestures on the MacBook trackpads is kind of the last time I feel like any aspect of input or window management or UI, generally UX, like really felt fresh and interesting and innovative.
Tabs when the browsers added tabs, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it feels fairly ossified, and when we reach a point where things are changing, then it feels it's good for your brain to do new things. Mm-hmm. Is the TLDR. And one of the new things that would be good for your brain to do is to support your favorite listener supported tech shows like this.
That's right.
Brad and Will made a tech pod. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't be here without the folks who support the show, and we appreciate each and every one of them.
We would not.
If you want to find out how you can support the show, you can go to patreon.com/techpod, where for $5 a month, which is like when I went to the coffee shop the other day and got a coffee, it was half the price of a cup of coffee. San Francisco's a little expensive right now.
That's a hell of a cup of coffee.
I'm not getting coffee at stores anymore, Brad. It's too damn expensive.
Yeah.
But the Tech Pod, not too damn expensive. For $5, you get access to the Discord. You get access to the monthly patron exclusive episodes, and you keep us from doing weird things like putting ads on the podcast. So we appreciate you.
Yeah.
We especially appreciate our executive producer tier patrons, including OpenAI Delenda Est, Andrew Slosky, Jordan Lippett, Octothorpe Bunny Jerk, David Allen, James Kamek, and Pantheon, makers of the HS3 high-speed 3D printer. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. I'm the only one who saw this.
Yes.
This is not a video podcast, and you're facing the other way. Your game frame was just doing some real weird shit for a second.
Really?
Yeah. Like the bottom 2 rows of pixels were lit up real bright in some interesting colors.
Oh, no.
In a way that was, it seemed to fix itself. It righted itself and continued on.
Oh, I'm going to be sad if my game frame is on the fritz.
It looks cool, to be honest, and it was like a bit glitch-arty. I don't know what was going on there, but
I'll be honest. I was thinking about doing a writing a Python script or something that would generate some random noise to put up there. I had that.
Yeah, sure.
I got that Pymaroni Galactic Unicorn or whatever that thing's called.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll do that with that. I think there's a way to do like Whopper lights on that just out of the box. But anyway, glitch art. It's the future, man.
Yeah, that's cool. I spent a little bit of time last weekend reading about async IO in Python.
There you go.
Which is asynchronous, like how to do multiple things at once and hand off control to different functions and have things wait. And it's the first step to writing a daemon.
Have you played The Farmer Was Replaced, Brad?
No, I have not.
You need to play that. Yeah. You would very much like. It'll run on your laptop too.
Yeah, I should check that out. But this is basically how you would like to do an event loop for something like a service or a daemon that sits there waiting for things to happen as opposed to working imperatively and then anyway, programming. Interesting stuff.
It's the future.
Yeah.
That'll do it for us this week. Thanks everybody for listening. As always, we appreciate y'all, and please consider the environment before printing this podcast.